Kids, good morning. Today's video is going to be called Shift in Paradigm. So here's the premise. It's like my Sunday sermon. Are you ready for this? Increasingly over the last decade, we have been watching or feeling, most of us or many of us have been feeling as if the nation's been shifting hard right. Just the conversation in general has shifted hard right, and the hard right has become very active. Now, they've done this on two fronts. They've done it on a political front, and they've done it on a religious front. And they've done it all through fear, absolute paranoia. And they live in this bubble that they've created, and they're in constant state of panic over they're coming to get our guns, they're coming to take away our church, they're coming to do this, they're coming to do that, they're going to destroy our families, they're going to whatever it is their issue is, they're constantly on the lookout for Big Brother coming to get them. Now, you can only live in a state of panic or a state of abject fear for so long, and when nothing happens, and they keep telling you it's going to, but it never does, eventually it starts to wear off. Now, many of my friends on the left have just been up in arms over this for years, screaming and yelling, how could you say these things, think these things, it's ridiculous, it's preposterous, blah, 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 blah. I myself more than a few times have chimed in and said, this is insanity. It's absolute insanity. How can you live in this state of fear when these things are not happening? But they persist. So, I always had this feeling, though, however, that fear and panic are exhausting things. They are very addictive because they get the adrenaline flowing, they get these different juices in your body flowing. But then at some point, your glands empty out and they don't make enough, and suddenly you have to drop. And what I'm seeing is that the right is kind of dropping off slowly because there's nothing, because they've run out of panic. They've run out of things to panic about. Every time they've turned around and predicted gloom and doom and the end of the universe hasn't come. Their freedoms haven't been taken away, they haven't been trampled on, they haven't been destroyed, they haven't been anything. None of the things that they predicted 8 years ago have happened so far. Not one single thing has happened. Not one. But there's still a few clingers on. Now, the result of this for the rest of us, for the rest of the universe, besides this little 10% bubble over here that still clings on to whatever, is that their bubble is it was a 20% bubble and now it's a 10% bubble, and it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller and more intense and more intense. So it's kind of like concentrated crazy all in one little spot. Now the rest of the folks, the ones that have peeled off in exhaustion, have just resigned themselves to complete apathy, and those on the left, on the extreme left, have kind of hardened into the "you see, I told you so" mode. And while that is certainly delicious, it is also sanctimonious and rather unseemly, and the left should be a little bit more humble with their finger pointing and their sanctimony. So there should be a general shift in paradigm. This apathy is actually kind of a good thing because it's taking the sting out of the extremism both on the left and on the right. And from the left's perspective, the things that they were supposed to get accomplished and supposed to get done didn't, and they really don't have any right to sit and point fingers and be sanctimonious because they didn't have the cojones to get the things done they needed to when they needed to. And they had their opportunity. So everything they did get done was hella watered down and is not going to work as well as it was expected or was envisioned or hoped for. So there really should be no finger pointing. The apathy is actually good. Then you take things like on the religious standpoint. You take like, for like when I was growing up, most of Catholicism or Catholics were actually kind of mild mannered folks. Now we've got these extreme Catholics and these mild Catholics, and for a while the extreme Catholics were taking over and eating up the Catholic Church, and the mild Catholics were running screaming out of the church as fast as they could. Now it seems with the new Pope, the mild factions coming back, and people may be thinking about returning to the church in a more mild form, less political, less rancorous, less hypocrisy, period, less hypocrisy. But then you look at folks like Westboro Baptist Church, which is the extreme of the extreme. People look at that and they think, do I really want to be part of any kind of religious institution? Because a lot of them are looked like that. Not just Westboro, but other churches are looked like that by a lot of America. And a lot of America are turning very apathetic towards churches because they're realizing they're just full of hypocrisy and they're man-made institutions that bring you no closer to God. And then you have these people, again, on the other side saying, see, I told you, and they should stop pointing their finger and saying, see, I told you, because that's not helping the situation at all. That sanctimony is not welcoming. Now when it comes to things like social issues, like gay marriage and don't ask, don't tell, and all these kind of things, the gays are making great strides. Excellent. It's a record strides in a record amount of time. And that's a beautiful thing. And we're hoping that the Supreme Court will back us up coming up here next month. However, it may not. But the point is, when do we stop fighting and start assimilating? Because the more you stand out and fight, then people want a war. When you just assimilate, then you become one with the crowd. Now the whole gay rights issue is to become one with the crowd, not to be separate but equal. And I've talked about this a couple of years ago. And particularly when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed, I said, okay, now it's time for us to put down the drag flags and the glitter and the gloss and start to assimilate in regular society, not lose our identity, but actually assimilate into society and become one with them as opposed to separate but equal and militant with an attitude. And the military will take care of the rest. Trust me, they will teach a whole generation or two of people that there's nothing to fear about gay people. And that will get back to the little towns and the little farms and all the places that people think that gay people, are some kind of, scary situation. It'll all get back there via the military, and we'll find out it's okay. And then soon it will be a non-issue. And the only thing that will make it an issue is if gays continue to make it an issue. Let's learn from our black brothers and sisters, and after we've won, let's stop fighting. Seriously, we need to stop fighting after you win. Otherwise, a separate but equal causes friction and fighting and war, and we don't need that necessarily. So let's all have a shift in paradigm, shall we? And let's get more centrist. Let's bring it together and stop being so this or that and just be. Does that make sense? My shift in paradigm. Anyway, that's my sermon for Sunday. Have a great day.